Earth is a trap, they were told. The Empire ignored it, too late. HFY Part 1. The warning they laughed at the first time the Empire heard the words, Earth is a trap. It was laughed off as fear talk. The message came from a damaged civilian ship drifting near the edge of Imperial space. The ship was old, patched together with parts from many worlds. Its crew were humans. Thin, tired and calm in a strange way. They did not beg for help. They did not ask for protection. They only asked one thing. Do not go to Earth. The Imperial patrol officer listening to the message frowned and leaned back in his chair. He had heard many warnings before. Every weak species tried to protect its home with stories. Cursed worlds, angry gods, hidden weapons. It was always the same. The human speaker on the screen was a man named Jack Morrow. His hair was dark and messy, his face marked with old scars. His voice was steady. Earth is a trap, he said. It always has been. It was built that way. The patrol officer smiled and cut the transmission. He marked the ship as low priority and forwarded the report up the chain with a short note. Humans exaggerating again. Possible myth culture? Within weeks, similar warnings appeared again and again. A trade station near the rim reported humans refusing to discuss their homeworld. A mining colony recorded a human worker panicking when an Imperial officer mentioned Earth's coordinates. A research outpost received a data file from a human scientist that contained only one line, repeated in many languages. Earth is a trap. Each time the reports were ignored. The Empire was old. Older than most stars known to humans. It had conquered thousands of worlds, absorbed hundreds of species, and broken every kind of defense ever imagined. Shield worlds, fortress planets, artificial stars. Nothing had stopped it for long. Earth, according to Imperial records, was nothing special. It was a medium gravity world, a single star system. No visible megastructures, no energy signatures that suggested advanced weapons, no empire-wide presence. Humans were listed as adaptable, stubborn, and emotionally driven. Useful traits in labor forces, annoying traits in politics. The Empire saw opportunity. At the core world of the Empire, the High Council reviewed the data in a wide chamber of polished stone and floating displays. The image of Earth rotated slowly in the air, a green and blue sphere. Quiet, small. One counselor pointed at the image. This is the human origin world, yes. Another nodded. Yes. Population heavy. Technology uneven. Militarily insignificant by our standards. A third counselor waved a hand, dismissing the human warnings. Every species fears losing its birthplace. They invent legends to protect it. The council agreed. Earth would be absorbed. Its people would be folded into the Empire like so many before them. The order was given. While the Empire planned, life on Earth continued. Jack Morrow was no longer there. He had left years ago. Like many others, Earth had sent its children outward not to conquer, but to survive. Those who stayed behind did not talk about it. In a small coastal city, Lisa Carter walked to work as the sun rose over the water. She worked at a power station that looked old on the outside. Concrete walls, rust stains, nothing special. Inside, however, the systems were far more complex than they appeared. Lisa did not think about aliens. She did not think about the Empire. She thought about her morning coffee and whether the bus would be late again. Beneath her feet, deep underground, machines hummed softly. They had been humming for generations. Across the continent, Ben Holloway drove along an empty road toward a weather monitoring facility. He liked the quiet. The facility tracked storms, tectonic movement, and solar activity. Officially. Unofficially, it tracked much more. Ben checked his console as he drove. Everything was green. Everything was normal. That was the way it was meant to be. In a quiet suburb far from any military base, Amy Collins helped her daughter get ready for school. She tied her shoes, brushed her hair, and reminded her to pack lunch. When her daughter asked why the basement door was always locked, Amy smiled and said it was for old storage. The answer was true enough. Earth looked peaceful. That was the point. Far above the planet, old satellites drifted in slow orbits. Some were marked as broken, some were listed as scrap. None of them were actually dead. They listened. They waited. Back in Imperial space, the warnings continued. A human trader named Nate Brown refused to guide an Imperial scout toward Earth. He accepted prison instead. He said nothing except the same sentence, spoken quietly. Earth is a trap. A human diplomat named Claire Adams resigned from her post and disappeared. She left behind a personal log. It was short and direct. Do not follow us home. We are not what you think. The Empire ignored them all. The idea that a single world could threaten Imperial expansion was almost insulting. The Empire measured danger in fleets and stars, not in stories. Preparations moved forward. Scout ships were assigned. Maps were updated. Earth was marked for first contact and annexation. As the date approached, something strange happened. Imperial sensors aimed toward the solar system began to receive interference. Nothing dramatic. Just noise. Small errors. Data that did not line up. Engineers blamed background radiation. Navigators adjusted their calculations. The errors vanished, then returned, then vanished again. No one thought much of it. On Earth, subtle changes began. Government offices ran quiet drills labeled as infrastructure maintenance. Trains adjusted schedules. Power grids shifted load patterns. Data centers mirrored archives to deep storage. Most people noticed nothing. Those who did were told it was routine. In a rural area, Daniel Brooks stood with a small group of engineers near what looked like an abandoned radio tower. He checked his tablet and nodded. "System is awake," he said. "Good," Ellen Price replied. Keep it quiet. They had done this many times before. Small checks. Small awakenings. Never all at once. Earth did not panic. Earth prepared. In a hidden facility beneath an old mountain range, a group of analysts watched incoming space data. One of them, Paul Rivera, leaned closer to the screen. "They are looking at us now," he said. Laura King did not look surprised. "We knew they would." The data showed faint sensor sweeps touching the outer edges of the solar system. Gentle. Curious. Confident. Laura folded her hands. "Let them look." Paul hesitated. "Do you think they will listen this time?" Laura shook her head. "No, they never do." Above them, the planet continued to turn. Oceans moved. Clouds formed. Cities glowed softly at night. To the Empire, it looked like a prize. To humans, it was home. And home had teeth. Far from Earth, the first Imperial scout fleet changed course. Its destination was set. Its commanders were eager. They spoke of swift compliance and easy integration. They did not know that every path they would take had already been mapped. They did not know that Earth had been waiting long before the Empire ever existed. They had been warned. They laughed, and Earth stayed silent. The Imperial scout fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system with calm confidence. The lead ship slowed as it crossed the outer boundary. Its sensors spread wide, tasting the system. Planets appeared one by one. Cold rocks. Gas giants. Ice fields. Nothing unusual. The commanders relaxed. "This is the human home system," one officer said. "It looks empty." The fleet commander, a tall being with silver markings across his face, studied the data. He had seen many first contacts. This one felt dull. "No active defense grid," he said. "No shield signatures. No patrol ships." Another officer nodded. "Even their satellites are old. Most look inactive." The commander allowed himself a thin smile. Humans had filled the Empire's data nets with warnings and fear, yet their home looked weak, almost forgotten. "Send a report to the Council," he said. "Earth is open." The scout ships moved deeper. As they passed the outer planets, small errors appeared again. Tiny shifts in gravity readings, a delay in signal return. One ship reported a brief loss of orientation, then corrected itself. Minor issues, the engineers said. Space was never perfect. Closer to Earth, the fleet slowed to formation speed. The planet came into view. Blue oceans, white clouds, green land. It was beautiful in a simple way. Several officers leaned closer to their screens. One of them laughed softly. "This is what they were hiding," he said. "A garden world." The commander ordered a wide scan. The results showed cities, power networks, air traffic, and surface vehicles. No planetary shield. No orbital weapon platforms. No large military fleets. "Primitive," the commander said. "Even their weapons are ground-based." He paused, then added, "Still, protocol matters." A message was prepared. A formal imperial greeting translated into human languages. It demanded peaceful surrender and integration into the Empire. It promised order, progress, and protection. The message was sent. On Earth, the message was received in many places at once. In a control room far below the surface, Paul Rivera watched the transmission scroll across his display. He did not react. He simply marked the time. Laura King stood beside him. Her face was calm. "They are polite," Paul said. "They always are at first," Laura replied. Across the world, the message appeared on screens, radios, and emergency channels. Most civilians stared in shock. Some screamed, some laughed, thinking it was a prank. Governments did not speak. There was no reply. In the Imperial fleet, officers waited. Minutes passed. "No response," an aide said. The commander frowned. "Perhaps internal debate. Send it again." The message was repeated. Still nothing. The commander's smile faded. He felt a faint irritation. "No species ignored the Empire like this. Prepare a demonstration," he ordered. A small one. A single ship broke formation and moved closer. Its weapons powered up, aimed at an empty stretch of ocean far from any city. The shot was precise. A beam of energy struck the water, boiling a wide circle and sending steam into the air. Sensors showed no counterattack. The officers nodded. Fear would follow. On Earth, the ocean closed again. Waves rolled. The steam faded. Still no reply. In the control room, Paul noted the strike. He looked at Laura. "Green," he asked. "Green," she answered. The commander felt annoyance turn into anger. "They test us," he said. "Very well. Landing forces, prepare." Dropships detached from the larger vessels and began their descent toward the planet. They aimed for open land near major cities. The Empire preferred to arrive where it could be seen. As the dropships entered the atmosphere, something strange happened. Their sensors dimmed, not failed, dimmed, as if the planet itself was swallowing their signals. Pilots reported visual interference. Clouds seemed thicker than expected. Wind shifted without warning. One dropship corrected its course too late and crashed into the ocean. The crew was lost. The fleet commander frowned deeply now. "Adjust descent parameters," he ordered. The remaining dropships continued. On the ground, people watched strange shapes burn across the sky. Some ran. Some recorded. Some stood frozen. Emergency alerts finally sounded. Simple instructions followed. Stay indoors, move to shelters, follow local guidance. Many shelters were old subway tunnels, basements, and reinforced buildings. Others were places no civilian had ever noticed before. In the city where Lisa Carter lived, sirens echoed. She grabbed her bag and followed the flow of people underground. The power station sealed itself behind her as she left. She did not know why she felt calm. She only knew that the doors closing around her felt familiar. In a rural town, Ben Holloway reached his facility just as the sky darkened with falling ships. He parked and walked inside. The building locked down automatically. He checked his console. All systems showed active. "Good," he whispered. The first dropships reached the ground. Imperial soldiers emerged in formation. They wore armor that gleamed under the sun. Their weapons hummed softly with power. They expected resistance. They found none. The landing zone was empty. No soldiers. No vehicles, no shouting crowds, just wind and grass. Strange, one officer said. They advanced toward the nearest city. As they moved, their communication links began to fail. Units reported delays, commands echoed twice, or not at all. Then gravity shifted. It was subtle at first, a heaviness in their steps, a slight pull that made balance harder. One soldier stumbled and fell. His armor hit the ground harder than expected. The officers halted the advance. "Gravity readings are rising," an engineer said. Slowly but steadily. "Impossible," another replied. "That would affect the planet itself." The engineers swallowed. "It is affecting us." Above them, in orbit, several Imperial ships reported similar issues. Orbits decayed faster than predicted. Engines worked harder to maintain position. The fleet commander stared at the data. "What is happening?" he demanded. No clear answer came. On Earth, underground systems shifted into new states. Power rerouted. Old machines moved from sleep to wake. In a hidden command node, Daniel Brooks watched a map of the planet. Zones glowed softly as systems aligned. "First contact phase complete," he said. Ellen Price nodded. No panic. No full response. Let them step deeper. In the city, Imperial ground forces reached the outskirts. Buildings stood tall and quiet. Roads were empty. No vehicles moved. "This is wrong," an officer muttered. They advanced anyway. Without warning, the street beneath them cracked. Not from an explosion, but from stress. The ground bent and folded, turning solid pavement into uneven stone. Several soldiers fell. Their armor weighed them down. Some could not rise. Weapons fire erupted, aimed at windows and doors. The shots hit, but buildings did not collapse. The materials absorbed the energy in strange ways. Return fire came not from soldiers, but from the environment. A parked vehicle suddenly surged forward, slamming into a squad. A metal pole tore free from the ground and struck another. The officers shouted orders, but communication broke down completely. In orbit, a scout ship lost control and spiraled inward. Its engines burned out. It vanished into the atmosphere. The fleet commander felt something he had not felt in centuries: fear. "This is not possible," he said softly. Back in the control room, Paul exhaled. "They are in now," he said. Laura nodded. "The trap is closing." Above the planet, the Imperial fleet tried to pull back, just a little, to regain control. They found it harder than expected. Earth held on. And still, no human voice spoke to them. The Empire now knew something was wrong, but it still did not understand how wrong. In orbit, alarms spread from ship to ship. Gravity fields pulled unevenly. Navigation systems argued with each other. Engines burned more fuel than expected just to stay in place. The fleet commander ordered all ships to stabilize and hold position. The order did not reach all of them. Signals bent. Some arrived late. Others arrived changed. A few never arrived at all. One cruiser drifted too close to the planet. Its crew fought the pull, pushing engines past safe limits. The ship shook. Metal screamed. Then the engines failed. The cruiser fell. From the ground, people saw a bright line of fire cut across the sky. It broke apart before reaching the surface, burning itself into nothing. On Earth, underground, the human command network stayed calm. Daniel Brooks watched the data flow. His voice stayed steady. "They are losing orbital control," he said.
Ellen Price nodded. "Expected." Paul Rivera leaned closer to his screen. "Ground forces are scattered."
No unified command. Laura King folded her arms. Let them feel alone. On the surface, Imperial soldiers struggled to regroup. In the city streets, gravity pulled at them in waves. Sometimes it felt normal. Sometimes it felt crushing. Their armor became a prison. Every step took effort. One officer tried to activate an emergency beacon. It failed. Another tried to remove his helmet. The air was breathable, but his hand shook too much to release the seals. Fear spread fast. They fired weapons at shadows, at buildings. At nothing, the city answered without showing itself. Traffic lights snapped loose and fell like heavy stones. Windows shattered outward, not from blasts, but from pressure changes that came and went without warning. A squad tried to retreat down a wide street. The ground tilted beneath them, slowly turning the road into a slope too steep to climb. They slid, armor scraping, weapons lost. No human soldiers appeared. That was the worst part. In another region, a landing group attempted to secure a power station. They breached the outer wall easily. Inside, they found empty halls and humming machines. Then the lights went out. The floor shifted, walls moved. The building folded inward, not collapsing but reshaping itself. Passageways narrowed, doors sealed. The soldiers fired wildly, but the structure absorbed the shots. One by one, their armor systems shut down, drained by unseen forces. They were trapped. Above, the fleet commander called for a full retreat. "Pull all ships back to safe distance," he ordered. "Prepare emergency jump." The navigation officers hesitated. "Jump calculations are unstable," one said. "The gravity field is fluctuating too fast." The commander slammed a clawed hand against the console. "Try." The fleet began charging its jump drives. Earth reacted. Deep beneath the planet's crust, systems shifted into a new mode. Power surged through hidden networks older than most human cities. The planet itself became part of the defense, gravity wells sharpened. Several ships screamed alarms as jump fields failed to form. Energy bled away into space. One destroyer attempted the jump anyway. It tore itself apart. The commander stared at the loss in silence. His confidence was gone now, replaced by disbelief. "This world should not be able to do this," he said. No one answered. On Earth, humans still did not reveal themselves. In a shelter beneath the school, Amy Collins held her daughter close. The ground trembled now and then, but the walls held firm.
"Is it an earthquake?" her daughter asked. Amy shook her head gently.
"No, it's just the planet moving."
Above them, life went on in strange quiet. No broadcasts. No speeches. Only instructions and calm voices guiding people to safety. Human cities became empty shells, ready to be used as terrain instead of homes. In a rural area, Ben Holloway monitored atmospheric shifts. He adjusted a few values. "That should slow their air support," he said to himself. High above, Imperial flyers tried to regroup. Wind slammed into them from all directions. Pressure systems formed and vanished without warning. Wings tore free. Engines choked. None reached stable flight. On the ground, one Imperial officer finally understood. "This planet is fighting us," he said aloud. Dravens were lost in the chaos. In the command center, Paul looked at Laura. "Ground resistance is environmental," he said. "They still think we are hiding." Laura nodded. "Good." Daniel checked another display. "Autonomous systems are engaging Phase 3.
Ellen took a breath.
Then they will know. Across the planet, the environment changed again. Forests shifted. Trees bent and cracked, not randomly but in patterns. Paths closed. New obstacles formed. In deserts, sand hardened into glass-like sheets that reflected energy weapons back at their source. In mountains, rock slides cut off escape routes. The Imperial soldiers were exhausted. Their suits drained power constantly. Their bodies strained under changing gravity. Their minds broke under the silence. They never saw an enemy. Then the machines came. From beneath streets, fields, and oceans, human constructs rose. They were not shaped like soldiers. They were not shaped like tanks. They were simple. Heavy frames, multiple limbs, no markings, no lights beyond basic sensors.
They moved with purpose. The first machine stepped into a street where a squad had taken cover.
It did not fire. It reached out, grabbed a soldier, and pinned him to the ground. The soldier fired point blank. The shots did nothing. Another machine lifted a damaged transport and dropped it onto a group of soldiers. The rest fled. The machines did not chase. They simply advanced, slowly, blocking paths and closing spaces. Above, in orbit, the fleet commander watched ground feeds collapse one by one. "We are being dismantled," he whispered. He opened a private channel to the High Council. This is not a primitive world, he said. Earth is weaponized. The planet itself is a defense system.
Static answered him.
The signal died. The commander looked around his bridge. His officers were silent. Some stared at their stations, others at the planet below. For the first time, the Empire was truly blind. On Earth, in the control rooms, humans watched with heavy focus. No cheers, no anger, just work. Daniel spoke quietly. Ground forces are neutralized or contained.
Ellen nodded. Orbit next.
Paul hesitated. They are trying to surrender. Some channels are broadcasting distress signals. Laura was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Record them. Do not respond." Paul swallowed. Understood. In the ruins of a city center, an Imperial officer dropped his weapon. He knelt, gravity pressing him down. His armor was dead. His hands shook. He shouted into the empty air, "We surrender!" No answer came. Only the slow sound of something heavy moving closer. High above, the remaining Imperial ships fought to hold position. Engines burned hot. Hulls creaked. Earth's pull tightened. The trap was no longer closing. It was closed. And humanity had still not spoken a single word. The last stage began without fire, without noise, and without mercy. In orbit, the remaining Imperial ships struggled like insects caught in thick liquid. Their engines burned hard, but space itself felt heavy. Gravity pulled in ways no map could explain. It did not pull straight down. It pulled inward, sideways, and sometimes all at once. The fleet commander stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his empire die. Reports came in slower now. Some ships were already gone, crushed, torn apart, dragged into the upper atmosphere where heat and pressure finished the work. Others drifted helplessly, power drained, weapons useless. The commander ordered surrender broadcasts on every open channel. "This is Fleet Command," he said. "We surrender. We request ceasefire. We request communication." The message went out in dozens of languages. Earth did not answer. On the surface, Imperial ground forces were finished. Some were trapped in reshaped buildings that had sealed like living things. Others were pinned under machines that never spoke and never rushed. A few were simply pressed into the ground by gravity until their bodies could not take it anymore. Those who survived sat or knelt, weapons dropped, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. The machines stood around them, silent, unmoving, like fences made of metal and purpose. In the Human Command Network, Paul Rivera watched the last organized resistance fade. "Ground conflict is over," he said quietly. Daniel Brooks nodded. "Orbit is nearly done." Ellen Price looked at another screen. Civilian safety remained stable. No major failures. Laura King closed her eyes for a moment. Then she opened them. "Prepare the message," she said. Paul hesitated. "Once we send it, there is no going back." Laura met his eyes. There was no anger there, no pride, only resolve. "They came to our door," she said. "They ignored the warning. Now they need to understand why it existed." Paul nodded and began assembling the broadcast. High above the planet, the fleet commander felt his ship shudder again. A deep groan ran through the hull. Lights flickered. "Jump drive failure confirmed," an officer said. "Permanent." The commander sank into a seat. "We were fools," he said. They told us again and again." No one answered. Then a new signal appeared. Clear, strong, calm. "All remaining Imperial units," a human voice said. "This is Earth." The bridge froze. The voice continued. It was not loud. It did not threaten. It did not rush. "You have crossed into a protected system. You were warned. You chose not to listen." The commander stood slowly and stepped closer to the console. "We surrender," he said again. "We request terms." The voice paused. just long enough to feel intentional. There will be no further violence, the voice said. Your forces are contained. Your ships will no longer function. You will not be harmed if you comply. The commander swallowed. What are your demands? Another pause. None, the voice said. Confusion rippled across the bridge. Then why, the commander asked, does this continue? Because, the voice replied, this was never about conquest. On Earth, people listened as the message played across every captured channel. In shelters, in command rooms, in quiet houses. Amy Collins held her daughter's hand and listened. Her daughter did not seem afraid anymore. In a weather facility, Ben Holloway leaned back in his chair, exhausted but steady. In cities now empty and safe, the machine stood still. The human voice continued. Earth is not a fortress, it said. It is a test. Long before we left our planet, we understood something simple. Space is dangerous. Life is fragile, and anyone who reaches the stars will eventually meet others who want what they have. The voice was steady, almost gentle. We did not build Earth to win wars. We built it so that no war would ever be easy. The fleet commander felt a weight in his chest that had nothing to do with gravity. You turned your home into a weapon, he said. No, the voice replied. We turned it into a filter. Silence followed. Then the voice spoke again. You are not being destroyed because you attacked us. You are being stopped because you ignored the warning. Any species that does that is not ready to share the galaxy. The commander closed his eyes. What happens to us now? He asked. You will be returned, the voice said. Your ships will be guided out once your systems are safe to move. You will carry a message. The commander opened his eyes. What message? The voice did not change. Earth is a trap. Across the Imperial fleet, systems shifted. Gravity loosened slightly. Power returned in limited amounts. Enough to live, not enough to fight. One by one, ships stabilized. On the ground, machines stepped back. Pressure eased. Surviving soldiers collapsed, breathing hard. Alive. Human recovery teams moved in then. Quiet, unarmed, efficient. They provided water, medical care, directions. They did not celebrate. In the days that followed, the Imperial fleet was pushed slowly and carefully out of the solar system. Not chased, not attacked, released. The Empire's council received the survivors in silence. The fleet commander stood before them and spoke the truth. Earth is not weak, he said. It is patient. It does not defend itself the way we understand defense. It waits. Some counselors argued. Some denied. Some blamed him. Sensor records. Ship losses. Gravity maps. Environmental warfare logs. The Empire fell quiet. Expansion halted. Borders closed. Other species heard the story and listened this time. The warning spread faster than fear ever had. Earth is a trap. Back on Earth, systems returned to sleep. Cities reopened. Trains ran, lights came back on. Lisa Carter returned to her power station. Everything looked the same as before. Amy's daughter went back to school. The basement door stayed locked. Ben Holloway filed his reports and went home. In the command center, screens went dark one by one. Laura King stood alone for a moment longer, looking at a quiet display of the planet. They will remember, Paul said softly behind her. Laura nodded. For a while.
Paul hesitated. And if they forget?
Laura smiled, just a little. Then they will be reminded. Above them, Earth turned peacefully through space, silent, waiting.